What's up, guys? If you ever thought that there was another black president before BHO, well, you might actually be right. Now, before Obama came and stole the hearts of millions nationwide with his "I'm black, don't worry, I'm cool" type attitude, we had what I would essentially call a whiteout. Obviously, if you live in America, you would know that black people have been living on expert mode for some time now, and over that time, some of those people have learned to adapt. Again, obviously, one of the few to adapt like no other was the Big B.O. Yes, we had Herman Cain, kind of, but he couldn't even walk out to his own name.
Texas Senator Ted Cruz.
And I'm pretty sure he worked for the Pillsbury Doughboy. But before Obama went all king in the castle on us, black people in politics were like Mexican chefs at an Asian restaurant. You don't want them there, but hey, they cook a mean lo mein, you feel me? So you let them. But what if I told you guys that before Obama was done doing whatever he was doing in Illinois, there was another black man who paved the way for him. Yes, the story I'm about to tell you does resemble the movie Head of State starring Chris Rock. And you might even think some of the archived footage I'm about to show you is scenes from the movie, but that's what resemble means. Everything shown here has been stolen from the US government, so sit back, relax, and let's just see how much time Oh my, don't worry, false alarm. Turns out she was 18 by 2 days. So the footage actually starts out with Nate Dogg singing in front of Mount Rushmore. And you even licked my balls. He's also wearing something you only see those Uncle Sams on stilts wear at the fair. They also let us know that people like Al Gore, Jesse Jackson, Hillary Clinton will not be in this movie, says the government. We start off this story in Washington, D.C. with a man who goes by Gilliam. Pretty stupid name, but if you're black, as long as your name isn't Leonidas or like Gunther, your life's gonna be pretty medium. But Mays isn't your average African American. He's also known for doing above average African American things.
You can't use food stamps to buy tires.
What else can this black Swiss Army knife do? Just about anything that doesn't involve him doing things by the book, because this is my neighborhood, nigga. And just to show you how much pull this man has around his neighborhood, he not only walks through a police line, but he also tells this guy who has a job to do, "Hey buddy, I don't do things by the book, because this is my neighborhood, nigga." And he basically cuts this demolition short so this lady can save her cat. And it's all nice and all, but look at where the cat is versus where she's looking at versus where they actually find the cat. There was no thought put into this scene whatsoever. They're like, you save cat, building explodes, you run out, a scene. But after, when Mays is feeling like $1 million, his music gets interrupted by a very specific announcement.
We interrupt the Jay-Z song to bring you this special bulletin. Presidential candidate Senator Sam Gaines and his running mate General Olson James were both killed today when their planes crashed into each other over Virginia.
Who the hell are those people? Well, if you were on Adderall during this, you would have noticed this very small detail where they show us the two guys they just mentioned are running for president. I was on meth and I noticed that. He then takes a victory lap at his local gas station and he's like, "Hey girl, did you see me do that thing on the thing?" And she's like,
"Hey, you don't know me."
He then stops by his girlfriend's house and she's like, "Can you act a little less black?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, why don't I just take down my Snoop Dogg poster while I'm at it?" This lady. Can you believe this nigga? Now we're at the Capitol building, and the late president's team, led by these three, are in crisis mode. One guy's like, "Let's concede," while the other one's like, "Let's find a replacement." But this guy's like, "Concede? Like the band?"
You can't just pick some guy to run for president.
But that's exactly what they do, and obviously they chose Gilliam, and not a moment too soon. This man's had his car towed, bike ran over, even got cheated on by this Ainsley looking dude. And just as he's about to call it quits and go record lines for Madagascar, this car pulls up and he's like, "Listen monkey, you're in our circus now."
Gilliam?
Or yeah, that's what he said. But this is where they let Mays know that they're choosing him to run for president, and even he's like, "Are you sure about that? Because I think Madagascar is going to have like 3 sequels, and I need the money." And here begins the presidential process we all know and love, only this time it's like an episode of the Jamie Foxx show on BET, and by that I mean no matter what this guy's told, he's going to do it his way, because this is my neighborhood, Nick. And just a warning, this movie is littered with cliches for both black and white people. Like when he's walking through the crowd, we get this one guy who's like, "Hey yo, check out my mixtape, son." And then for no reason, after Mays politely excuses himself, this guy's like, "Hey, what's the matter with this, Nick? I think he knows you're going to try to eat him later. You look like if pudding was poured into a suit." Mays then notices the girl he was talking to at the gas station, and she's like,
"Hey, you don't know me."
And then they proceed to dance to Nelly's song Hot in Here that starts while he's already dancing, but ends with him being the DJ.
What do you think you're doing?
Hey, stop it!
Throw your hands in the air! The wave of like this don't care!
There's no way that whoever was there before him was like, "Oh yeah, you know what, these kind of people wanted to hear Nelly." Everyone does end up having a good time though. I almost turn off the movie when this happens.
We really had a great time.
It was off the hizzle for shizzle.
We even get to see the literal black be slapped back into someone.
I can't say that I do.
Get your ass in there.
Maze's team is then like, you gotta meet the people face to face and let them know that Morty is gonna be the next best thing since Alex the Lion. And his first stop is Wisconsin to talk to the farmers.
Milk makes the body good, and you make the country good.
He then stops by a church in Memphis just to blast some 3-6 Mafia.
Hey, we finna do a song called Tongue Ring. Let me see your tongue ring. Is it rusty? Let me feel your tongue ring.
And finally, he ends up in Texas, where apparently all you need to do to secure the vote is say, "How about them Cowboys?" and then condescendingly start singing their national anthem to them.
The stars at night are big and bright.
I don't know where he is when he gets off the bus here. I'm assuming it's still in Texas, but I do know that Bernie Mac shows up and is like, "Oh!" And then Maze is like, "Oh!" Mac also lets these two know that he's a bail bondsman, and here's how they react.
Bail bondsman.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wow. Bail bondsman.
You know who else was a bail bondsman? Dog. Beth. The Son. But apparently this is going to be Maze's first time giving a speech in front of a big crowd, so his team is like, just read the script and then you can go back to beating up Bernie Mac, and Maze is like, fat chance hairline, and goes off on his own. He's all like, if you've ever been called black and then been asked, is it okay if I call you that? Say, that ain't right. If you've ever been at the lunch table with your friends and they show you a can of grape soda while chuckling, say, that ain't right. If you ever thought swimming pools should stay at a max of 4 feet deep throughout the whole pool, scream. And after his speech, his advisors are like, I see you know what you're doing, monkey man, and let him loose to black up everything they gave him. Literally. He goes from wearing a suit to all this. His bust now looks extra black. He even takes down Reagan and puts up AI. And I mean, hey, what's more impressive? This?
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear
That I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
Or this?
Iverson giving up more than half a foot to Russell. Now he's got Stockton, he breaks his ankles!
During all this, we finally meet his opponent Brian Lewis, who's apparently known for being Sharon Stone's cousin, and I'm like, doesn't that name sounds pretty familiar? And then I'm like, oh, that's right. Sharon Tate is she's dead. She didn't get violently murdered, but this guy doesn't play around, as shown by the commercial he made.
This is the White House without Maze Gilliam. Peaceful, isn't it? Now this is the White House if Gilliam is elected.
But Maze doesn't play around either, and made this commercial about Lewis.
Hi, I'm a Klansman. I hate niggers, Jews, and fags, but I love Brian Lewis.
But then Lewis hits back with this.
Is Maze Gilliam for cancer or against cancer? Maze Gilliam. He's for cancer.
They then meet at this school, and Maze goes up to Lewis, but before he can say anything, Buck Strickland's all over here like,
I don't know you, and I don't like you. Party's over, Gilliam.
So obviously that awakens the hidden Wakanda superpower that's hidden inside every black person, and he plans a takeover. But not before getting exposed for saying,
What do you expect? They act like us. We're bombing countries all the time. If I was 12, I'd probably have a gun too.
and it's like, damn, is this what Obama had to go through? This man's middle name is Hussein, and y'all are like, I'm not saying it's not real. They're now back on the road, and as these two are arguing, things get heated, and a couple of N-bombs start being thrown around without regard.
If they really had any idea that they could win this thing, do you think they would have chosen an ignorant-ass nigger like you?
And Maze is all like, oh, you're calling me one of those? Well then how about you don't go to the back of the bus, but just step off.
No, I am not saying that.
And you know what? You too, but actually you're kind of cool. Let's stay friends and let's talk about what I need to do next.
What? Who do you trust?
And just like that, Bernie Mac is back, and he knows how to win an argument.
Do you know NATO Jacobs?
I know what NATO is.
Do you know NATO Jacobs?
I'm sorry, I haven't met the gentleman.
That's what I said. Did I say that, man? You don't know nothing about NATO? I don't know nothing about NATO.
And obviously we start seeing Maze win all these states, and he finally becomes the first black president.
The race for president is over. For the first time in history, a black man, Maze Gilliam.
This movie is actually way more black than I showed you. Like, for some reason, Tracy Morgan plays the meat man, and all he does is be like, hey, yo, you want to buy my fucking meat? He also goes to the Players Ball and does all this other stuff you'd only really find funny if you're black. It's kind of like Barbershop, except Cedric the Entertainer isn't in it. Yeah, guys, I know some of you were born around 2003, 2004 when this happened, so you might not remember it, but rest assured, this is all true, and this is all true. If anyone tells you Obama was the first black president, just be like, you mean the guy who got Chris Rock's sloppy seconds? Yeah, no. See you guys next week, though. Peace.
It was off the hizzle for shizzle.